Welcome, gentle listener. I am Baldermort, and I wish to introduce you to the factions of the Warhammer 40K universe. So, let us explore the faction known as the 10th Legion of the Legiones Astartes, previously known as the Stormwalkers, but now better known as the Iron 10th, the Iron Hands. The 10th Legion are unlike many of their brother Astartes. They do not thrill to combat or seek glory. Not for them is the furious charge or the swift deployment their brothers have perfected. For they do not enjoy war. For them it is a serious business that requires control, endurance, and the application of unimpeachable logic. They resist the urges that others indulge in, and for this they are named dour, gloomy, or melancholy by their brother Astartes. But they are unflinchingly loyal, tenacious, and indefatigable in their pursuit of the destruction of the enemies of the Imperium. The loss of their Primarch to rage taught them to be logical and controlled at all times, be it on or off the battlefield. Some say that there is as much personality in the vehicles that they ride as the Astartes of the Iron Hands, but this is patently unfair and incorrect. They merely know, better than any loyalist legion, the high cost of losing themselves to anger and rage. While other legions and chapters are like fire, the strike of lightning, or a tsunami of wrath, the Iron Hands are like a slow earthquake that opens a chasm that consumes their enemies to the least and to the last. Where the Iron Hands go to war, there is nothing and no one left to tell the tale. Their foes are ground down to nothing by their cold anger, their logical methods of utter annihilation. Now I shall lean on existing wisdom before getting to the heart of the matter, which, trust me, you will not want to miss. To quote, originally known as the Stormwalkers, the Legion was created during the latter days of the Unification Wars on Terra. Recruitment bases at this time were spread widely all across the planet, but the warlike cultures of Albia, in particular, provided effective initiates for the Legion. The Legion's first instance of recorded combat was in the Sol system, against a mutant warband known as the Scythers. Shortly thereafter, they exterminated the Xenos Lyask on the world of Obarath. While the Legion was victorious in both actions, they did not yet seem to specialize in any area of warfare. It was only during the invasion of the Orc-held planet 0234, designated Rust, that the Legion's effectiveness in utilizing slow-moving mass firepower became apparent. At Rust, the Iron Hands displayed a unique and intensely effective method of making war. They ordered their attached Imperial Army colleagues to form a triangular fortification in the middle of 3 Orc strongholds. When the Orcs sallied forth in their droves to attack the army formation, they came in such numbers that their onset could be seen from orbit. As they charged the Imperial Army fortification in their midst, the Iron Hands landed and organized into a dense echelon formation with tanks and heavy support at the front, and lines of Astartes following thereafter. The Iron Hands then slowly moved around the perimeter of the army fortifications and burnt, blasted and crushed every single last Orc gathered there. None survived the onward grind of the Iron Hands' advance. It was this approach to war that thereafter epitomized the Iron Hands' engagements and provided a template for other legions to deal with massed Orcs and other Xenos. But none could ever actuate the formation as efficiently and effectively as the Iron Hands. The Primarch of what would later officially become the Iron Hands, Ferrus Manus, also known as the Gorgon, was among the first of the Emperor's sons to be rediscovered. The early history of Ferrus Manus is chronicled in the folklore of Medusa. The most popular of these tales is the Canticle of Travels, which details the trials of Ferrus Manus and his ordeal with the great silver worm known as Acernoth. The Canticle is the only tale that even attempts to explain the mystery of how Ferrus Manus came by his living metal hands. Ferrus Manus never united the people of his homeworld in the way most of the other Primarchs had, on the basis that competition grew greater strength. When the Emperor eventually came to Medusa, Ferrus Manus tested himself against him as well in a cataclysmic battle that is said to have laid waste to entire mountains. Finally, having found someone as his equal, Ferrus accepted the Emperor as his master and took command of the 10th Legion of Space Marines, which was renamed the Iron Hands in his honor. With the Gorgon at their head, the Iron Hands quickly became renowned for their ability to confront enemies of the Great Crusade head-on, gaining a reputation as ruthless and calculating fighters. They excelled at high-intensity warfare against both technologically advanced foes and brutal xenos such as orcs, whose sheer power and vast numbers constituted a grave threat to the success of the Crusade. Soon enough, the Iron Hands became known as the Iron Tenth, and were deliberately deployed to battlefields where set-piece engagements against massed armies were likely. As their battle style required advanced war machines, the Iron Hands began to establish their notoriously close ties with the Adeptus Mechanicus, whose culture was astonishingly similar to their own. One of the most notable campaigns waged by the Iron Hands during the Great Crusade was that against the Diasporax. At the outset of the heresy, Fulgrim, the Primarch of the Emperor's Children, tried to turn Ferrus Manus to join the side of the traitors. When Ferrus refused, Fulgrim had his fleet launch a crippling attack on the Iron Hands vessels, although he could not bring himself to kill his brother. So close were they. Ferrus Manus' anger was so blinding that it overwhelmed his renowned level-headedness. Ferrus sped ahead of the bulk of his legion with his veteran warriors to join the strike force tasked with destroying Horus on the world of Istvan V. There, alongside the Salamanders and Raven Guard legions, the Iron Hands force was caught in a merciless ambush arising from an unforeseen betrayal, as the 4 legions sent as a second wave in the battle all turned traitor and declared for Horus. The slaughter was great. Consumed with rage, Ferrus would not listen to reason when his brother Primarchs, Vulcan and Corvax, pleaded with him to retreat. Onwards he strode, smiting traitors with every step. But though the Iron Hands fought at his side, they could not prevail against the might of Horus's armies. On the blood-soaked fields of Istvan V, Ferrus Manus was slain by Fulgrim, who wielded a chaos-imbued weapon. Fulgrim, the Primarch of the Emperor's Children, was someone Ferrus had once called his closest brother. Rumours persisted that Ferrus Manus' corpse was taken to Mars, but the Iron Hands deny all such claims. They bear a grudge against all the participants of the heresy, the traitors for being weak enough to become corrupted, but also against the other loyalists for not being strong enough to protect the Emperor. After the massacre, scattered survivors of the Iron Hands under Ulrach Brandthan and later Cadmus Tyro, along with remnants of the Salamanders and Raven Guard, began a campaign of vengeance against those that had betrayed them on Istvan V, organising aboard the Sisypheum. Meanwhile, additional Iron Hand survivors under Shadrach Meduson continued their own guerrilla war, nearly assassinating Horus, Fulgrim and Mortarion during the Battle of Dwell. Meduson attempted to reforge the Iron Hands and their Raven Guard and Salamander allies into a new legion to battle Horus directly, but was undermined by the crazed cult of the Gorgon, which claimed that it had resurrected Ferrus Manus. Ultimately, Meduson, driven by vengeance, was slain at the Battle of Aragna Chain. Meanwhile, another Iron Hands force under Ortek Mor was able to destroy the World Eaters' controlled planet of Bodst. Following the Horus heresy, the Iron Hands were in a state of disarray and still reeling from their near destruction. While many Imperial factions bayed for blood and rushed to vent their fury upon their betrayers, the Iron Hands gathered their strength on Medusa and convened the Iron Council in a conclave known forever after as the Tempering. It was this gathering that determined the human race itself, in all its contemptible emotion, was to blame for the heresy and must be purged of its flaws. So it was that the Iron Hands determined their guiding mission. They would exact payment for the wrongs done to them, but with a measured ruthlessness. In their every thought and deed, they would seek out weakness and destroy it, replacing it with machine-like fortitude. Thus began a bloody campaign that continues to this day, fought by the Iron Hands and those among their successors shaped by their teachings. After the events of the Horus heresy, the remaining members of the Iron Hands Legion were split into smaller chapters. It was also decided that no single individual would command the Iron Hands again. There it was decided that the Iron Council would oversee the sons of the Gorgon. The Iron Hands are infamous for their extensive use of bionics, which has helped bring them into a close relationship with the Adeptus Mechanicus. After the Horus heresy, when the legions were reorganized into chapters, the Iron Hands became recluses, attempting to find ways to make themselves even stronger, so that they would be fit for serving under Ferrus Manus again at the end of times. To this end, they have made it a practice to make extensive use of bionic modifications, going so far that there are rumours of some battle brothers being wholly mechanical. Iron Hands consider the greatest honour that they can receive is to be interned in a dreadnought armour. It is in the so-called Blessing of Iron ritual that the Iron Hands replace parts of their bodies with bionics. The Iron Hands also eschew the traditional office of chaplain in favour of their Iron Fathers, specially trained tech marines who serve to protect the faith of their brethren. Some outsiders view this, as well as the Iron Hands' ties to the Adeptus Mechanicus, as an unhealthy relationship. Only the spirit is pure. The mind may be swayed, the body may fail. Only the soul cradles vengeance purely. Become the weapon of the soul. Where the mind hesitates, overcome it. Where the body fails, replace it. Aspire to the condition of the Primarch. Emulate his union with steel. Never waver. Never retreat. Never doubt. The flesh is weak. The weak shall be purged. What remains is strength. Principal lesson of the Iron Hands. Make war and move on, and again, until nothing breathes which stands against us. All else is sophistry and pretty lies. Ferrus Manus on his legion's role in the Great Crusade. The machine is strong, but we must purge the weak, hated flesh and replace it with the blessed purity of metal. Only through permanence can we truly triumph. Only through the machine can we find victory. Punish the flesh. Iron in mind and body. Hail the machine! Paulian Blanter, Iron Father of the Cargill clan of the Iron Hands. Ours was an honourable legion, a dependable legion, a loyal legion. We go where there is work to be done. We are not called when a shock attack will suffice. We are not called when a swift victory is assured. We are called when there is a need for a real battle, a real war. When the enemy teams in their hordes, when the enemy masses for the charge, when the enemy fills the skies, the plains or the oceans, then we are called. For we have learned that courage and skill alone are not enough. Our father was brave, our father was strong, our father was skilled, but it was not enough. At Isfahan, at the drop site massacre, we learned this. When the traitors were before us, and it was then revealed that our allies had turned as well, the enemies were behind us. We were undone, and all panicked. Korvax and his ravens scattered like rats. Vulcan and his salamanders bunkered like children. Our lord and our finest pushed on. When our sire was beset on all sides, he showed character. He showed honour, and pushed towards the heart of Horus's force. He wished to behead the arch-traitor Horus and end the matter, but it would not end thus. He gave in to desperation and rage. He gave in to his emotions. He failed. We venerate him, little known compared to the pretty angel. We laud his courage, but we learned from his mistake. In the years directly afterwards, we learnt this again, as rage diminished our numbers more. The flesh is weak. The flesh betrays. Only in iron is there true virtue, and we surround ourselves in iron. Transports, tanks, power armor, blessed dreadnoughts. We wear these things like a second skin, because you can trust in iron. It is not weak, it does not fail. We are the Astartes of iron. Where there is a need for tenacity, where there is a need for endurance, where there is a need for will, where there is a need for soldiers of iron, then and only then are we called. Where speed is required to dash across the plains, call the sons of Jagatai. Where there are walls or breaches to be defended or assailed, call the Sons of Dawn. Where there are civilians to be guarded or corralled, call the Salamanders. Where there is a need for all these disciplines, call the First. We leave the decapitating strike to the angels or the wolves. We leave the stealthy war to the ravens. And we leave the glory to the ultramarines who crave it so. Call us not. But if the enemy requires to be met head on, if there requires to be real battle, then, and only then, call upon the 10th. We advance, we fire, we do not retreat, and we grind our foes to dust. Let those who require succour or rest, accolades or glory, the heady vision of the routed running, let others be called for these lesser tasks. Let them bask in the emotions of battle, conquest and victory. For us it is a task that will be done logically, efficiently and completely. Where others flee, we stand. Where others fail, we succeed. Where others fall, we march on. We are the Iron Hands. Call us only if the enemy needs to be wiped out. Gentle listener, I have been Baldermort, your faithful servant. If you have enjoyed my brief introduction to the Iron Warriors, then please consider liking and subscribing. I will be covering most subjects in the phenomenal world of Warhammer 40K, and I would not want you to miss out.